if you consider yourself a lifelong learner, someone who's just an intellectually curious person, I want to encourage those types of people to go abroad for an extended period of time.
Welcome to Retire Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Keil, and we're here to help you create your dream retirement. Speaking of dream retirement, we're here today talking with Andrew Motiwalla about traveling overseas in retirement, which I think is a dream for quite a few people. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on. We're talking about travel and retirement. I think that's generally the number one thing I ask. Well, top two. I ask people, what do you plan to do in retirement? And they often say, hang out with my grandkids and travel. And you're in the business of travel, not grandkids. So we'll learn more about people and their travel in retirement. But what have you seen? Is that a dream? And how do people make this dream come true?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's definitely one of the top things people want to do in retirement. And often people don't really know how to go about it. They just start doing it, right? They just start booking tours and cruises to fill their time. But then I've also seen after a while, people become a little more sophisticated with their travel and start going a little deeper or going on more off the beaten path places. And I think this is really exciting for people because travel offers so many possibilities. And during your retirement, you actually have the time to start exploring all those possibilities. So I'm here to really encourage people to be thoughtful about their travel.
Yeah, you said people don't know how to travel, but they just start doing it. So I'm going to say kudos for anyone that just goes out and learns on the fly of here's how to travel. But what do you really mean by they don't know how to travel?
Yeah, they just sort of have this sense of different places that are on this bucket list of places I want to see, like a checklist, let's say. So I call it checklist travel, which is totally great because your whole life you've thought, I want to see the Eiffel Tower, I want to see the Machu Picchu, the Taj Mahal, you name it. And they want to go through that checklist. So that's sort of the first phase of travel, I would say, of like call it checklist travel. But then there's other types as well.
Yeah. So what if that's phase one? What would you call phase two?
I don't have a clever name for it other
There you
than
go.
sort of maybe more intentional or purposeful travel. And this is sort of, it comes when people actually reflect on, okay, there's a checklist, and that's fine, but also like, who am I and what do I want to do with my life in my retirement time? And I'll give you a great example. We had a fellow travel with us. He was an accountant his whole life and he worked as an accountant, but he always loved art. And he thought in his retirement, I would like to like dive deeper into art. So he actually then was intentional and he traveled with us in this case to Florence, Italy, the birthplace of Renaissance art. And he went really deep into it. And it inspired him to become more of a painter and get more into painting in his retirement. So that's an idea or an example of something intentional, thinking about who am I? What do I want to pursue in my retirement? And then using travel as a vehicle to get deeper into that.
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of yeah, it's just the idea of your dude. He probably did it because it's what he wanted to do. It's not in a way what society said. Like society says, go look at Big Ben and go see the Mona Lisa, right? You get go do
Right.
this, go see a couple churches, right? But he really thought more of what in this case he said Renaissance. So he's probably thinking of exactly the type of art and which delves into where he wants to go, right? So it's definitely
Exactly.
more intentional. I wonder if we can create a rubric right here on the fly. Is there a phase three? If so, what would you call it?
um, I Well, I think it's maybe I would call it sort of a more holistic approach, and maybe it's sort of like intentional in that. So this fellow, he had this intention of art, but there's other people who are more holistic, just in general. Let's say are into language learning or architecture, let's say, and so they'll many people I've seen they'll take a course at the local community college on say architecture or they'll take a course at the community college on a local like Spanish or Italian, and then they'll use travel as a way to accelerate their learning. And so it's intentional, but it's not just an isolated thing that they do. This travel, it's part of a larger thing that they're doing in their life, a larger. course of learning or immersion into a passion. For example, cooking. We have a lot of people who will come with us and they'll dive deep into Italian cooking for a month, but it's part of something bigger that they're doing in their life. And I really love that because they're reinventing themselves in retirement.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so we might have it here. We're getting there. So I see a lot of the phase one, right? The checklist travel, and I've got
Checklist travel.
clients all the time going on a cruise, right? They buy the 10-day cruise and they go see the different places in Europe and so forth, and they get the pictures, and I'm sure it's a lot of fun. But it's maybe not yet to the phase two where it's like you said, you're reflecting on who you are and what do I want. Although sometimes I see that where it's okay, my family came from this country, and so I'm going
Mm,
into my country's roots. And I was talking to somebody a couple months back, and I asked how his summer plans are going, and he's planning to go to Poland. And I thought, well, of course, because his name has like it ends in a SKI, right? It's got like a
yep,
ski, like he must have some sort of Polish history. And so I learned more. It turned out his parents had come over from Poland, and so they were going back to see. Here's where he's taking his kids. So their grandma and grandpa, he's going to go and show. Here's where grandma and grandpa were born, and here's where our
yeah.
family came from. That's definitely more purposeful. And I'm thinking it's phase three, which might not be a better. We're not saying that's better because you go up to the next level, but maybe immersive. Immersive seems like the type
I like
of
that. I
travel
love
here.
that.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. I
purposeful
expect to see
because it can
this
be
on your
many
website
different
soon.
purpose. I love it. Oh, can I use it or is it
Let's do it.
copyrighted?
Yeah, we'll both copy. We'll joint copyright it right here.
Okay, sounds good.
I
I
got
love
it. Yep. Good. Well, I just mentioned your website. That you have a website, and you mentioned earlier traveled with us. Tell me a little bit more about what you do and how maybe you are more focused on this non-checklist type of travel.
Sure. So my company is called The Good Life Abroad. And as the name implies, it's actually about living abroad for a period of time. In our case, we specialize in living in Europe for 1 or 2 months. We have locations in all the iconic European cities. And it's a way to go a little bit deeper because you have a whole month. And we started this precisely because checklist travel is fine. It's great. And many people have done a tour where they visit many cities over a course of a week or 10 days. But now what we're trying to offer is something a little deeper, which is go for a month and really immerse yourself into a city. And you can go and explore these different passions you might have and just get into the rhythm of life without the pressure of like, get on the bus, get off the bus, check into the hotel, check out of the hotel. Just kind of go and you have a nice upscale apartment and also a community of other fellow travelers, just like you, retirees who love travel, who all live nearby, or even in some cases in the same building. So you have this community that forms, and you can go off and explore the city either independently or all with some of your new friends.
Hi, it's Jeremy Keil here, and I know you're listening to the Retire Today podcast because you would like to create your dream retirement. I created a free video course to show you just how to do that. Head on over to 5stepretirementplan.com to learn how to create your retirement master plan. That's 5stepretirementplan.com. You can use the number or spell it out. You'll get there either way. Head over to 5stepretirementplan.com. Thanks for listening, and now for the rest of the show. Yeah, I'm thinking of comparing it to I think of my dad right now. So my dad's retired. His career in the government was focused around the German language. I was born in Germany because he was part of the
Cool.
military, living in Germany at the time. So he's someone who's uh, had a career and been fluent in German for 40 plus years, and enjoys probably 50 years by now. Um, but so and thankfully for him, he loves the area, loves the whole German experience. So it's easy for him to kind of take off and go to Germany and just navigate the entire country, even surrounding areas. Right, between German and English, you'll find somebody that can talk to you
Yeah.
on there. But imagine me; I don't have that full background. If I wanted to go, to Germany or anywhere in Europe, right, to have a community of similar retirees or have even like a base camp, he'll
Yep.
sometimes go and he'll go to a place, 2 days kind of in each city because he wants to see it all. But he's researched this ahead of time. He's maybe been to these places before and he was only there for half a day. Now he's going for like 2 or 3 days on there. He's got a leg up that most people I think don't, and
Yeah.
he's got a leg up for one country, right? If he's had this idea, I want to go to Spain, right? It's a completely different story on there. So I
Yeah.
can see how the having a base camp helps, and having a community of similar people that are in a similar situation helps you accomplish this goal, this more immersive goal of this type of travel.
Yeah. Yeah. When we did some of the market research, we talked to a lot of people who were into this idea of living abroad, and we talked to many people who had moved abroad. And one of the pain points that we heard from people is it gets kind of lonely. Like, I'm not a local, I don't speak the language. I love the local culture, but after, if you're there for a week, it's one thing, but if you're there for a month or 2 months, you start to crave more human connection. And so having that community is important. And then also, having a we provide a local staff person in each city that helps connect you to things that are happening in town, things that you might not know about. So, for example, a concert at the local university. I mean, it's such a cool thing to see, like, university students performing a concert. Like, I wouldn't know what's happening at the university, but having like a local friend who's there and suggesting things, it's like really helpful.
Yeah, and this local friend, is this somebody that came from the U.S., or is this a like local, like they're native born, or they're native, that's their territory?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. For example, I'll just give you an example. In Lisbon, Portugal, we have a program, and the woman who runs our program, we call them community managers. She's Portuguese American, so her parents are from Portugal. She was born in New Jersey, but then she moved back to Portugal as an adult. So she has one foot in both cultures.
Yeah, it sounds interesting for some people. Some people say, no, give me that checklist, right? I want to
Absolutely.
do that, and that's great. But I'm wondering if you could give a bit of advice. If you're maybe let's just say we're not going to label anyone. You're a checklist traveler, right? I'm not going to do that. But if you're somebody that is planning on traveling and you're planning on doing it on your own overseas, we're talking about going across the pond, whichever pond it is. What are maybe some mistakes or pitfalls that you see people run into?
Yeah. Before I dive into that, I think you hit on something that's really important. None of these categories are better than others. In fact, many people, including myself, we jump between them all the time. Like,
Hmm.
this trip, I just want to see something. And then the
Yeah,
next trip, I want to go deeper. And then sometimes I want to do something that's, advancing my learning in some area. So I think we just kind of pick and choose between them all the time, and they're all great. In terms of things that people should think about, um, even if you're going to go see something that's of interest. For example, I'm going to go to a festival later this year, and I just want to go see that festival. But at the same time, I ask myself, one, like, besides the thing I want to see, what else would I be really interested in learning about as a human being, and then maybe what could I do to prepare myself? I think the preparation, for me, I think reading a book about the place in advance makes it so much more rich and insightful, right? Suddenly you're seeing things that you read about, and the connections start forming in your brain. And it's really exciting. So I encourage a lot of good pre departure preparation. Reading a book is one. And then also, as we get older, things happen in our bodies. And I think it's good to do a little bit of prep and research in terms of wherever I'm going, where can I get English speaking medical care in advance? I think that's also just having a little bit of, what do they say, an ounce of prevention, right?
yeah, yep,
Is goes a long way. So there's some of that. And then when you're there, I encourage people to try to connect with the local people. It's one thing, and it's great to see the site. But if you can have a connection with a local person, it gives you a glimpse a little deeper into the culture. And I know many people say, well, if I'm only there for a few days, like, how am I going to connect with a local person? One, I think just being friendly and striking up a conversation if you go to a cafe and if you're in a place for a few days, let's say, I'd like to go to the same place more than once. So they start to see me, and I can, start a conversation like, "Oh, you're here again." "Yep, I'm here for a few days, and I really liked your cafe," and, asking them about it. And maybe they'll tell you the story of how the cafe came to be. And if that's not your thing, there's also a bunch of companies, I don't even know all the names, that are now offering this service where they'll connect you with a local family for having to share a meal. You may have seen them online. I think it's just a great idea. It's a way to have that connection and go a little bit under the surface and see the place on a deeper level.
Yeah, I like this, and I'm just thinking through my own experience. I like how you said that these phases. We'll have to think of maybe a different term of phases. It's not like you go from one to the next, but it's just you're picking from these different areas of really what's the goal. And if you are maybe going, if the goal is a checklist type of travel, I want to see this place. I want to be a part of that. Go prepare ahead of time, and maybe that's what helps you. You go once and you say, "Oh, I like this place. I want to go again." So I'm thinking just
Yeah,
recently, last year, I went to Rocky Mountain National Park. So I'm back to the U.S., not thinking of overseas, but I've got younger kids. I had 2 days, right? So
yeah,
actually, what I did, and this is great. I must have done it well. I must have channeled Andrew Motiwalla without knowing it yet a year ago, where I researched Rocky Mountain National Park. I found YouTube videos, and I think his name's Mike Stinsland. Was a I'll find this if anyone's going to Rocky Mountain National Park. I loved his YouTube channel. Learned a lot about which trails, and he was telling you how to get prepared ahead of time, which trails to do. I had reached out, kind of saying, "Hey, I've got 36 hours in the town. I only have 1 day that I'll be able to hike. What's your kind of suggestion?" And his suggestion was kind of like hit the main thing, but maybe not like the actual main thing. Like kind of do like everyone will be over here and
yeah,
do something in the top five, but with a little bit less off the beaten path. And I loved it, which also mean I have a desire now to go do more. Right.
yeah,
So now
yeah,
it's like, how do I go there for a week? And so that got me
right.
to, he's a local, right? I got this info from a local because I was preparing ahead of time and learned some different things. I think there's probably a decent number of YouTube channels. And my wife, every time I go somewhere, she gets the books from the local library. There's still
Yeah,
travel books out there, and I'll hit Chat GPT, and she'll get the 200-page book. And I tell you, the 200-page book wins because Chat is just the amalgamation of the averages. And
yeah,
I'll say, here's
yeah,
the three top things everyone else does. And it's like, okay, that's nice and all. Maybe you go take the picture, but let's go find the cool stuff and
yeah.
connect with
No,
the
it's so
locals.
many
And
good things
yeah,
in what you said, and I would even encourage people to read fiction that takes place in the location, because
okay,
it's
yeah,
one thing to get the facts, right? Like from ChatGPT, it's like, okay, these are a bunch of facts. But like a novelist will often capture
yeah,
like the romantic spirit of the place. And when I'm there, I feel like I am breathing in that same air that the writer was, so beautifully describing in the novel. So I like doing that. And exactly what you're saying too, we hear that a lot with the Good Life Abroad, is people look at our website and they say, oh, okay, these cities, Barcelona, Paris, Madrid, whatever. And they say, I've been there. But then they'll say, I was there on like a cruise, maybe like a river cruise where you stopped in a few different European cities. They said, that was like a wine tasting. But now I want the whole bottle. So I want to go back to Paris and I wanted a whole month. And so there's a time and a place for both, right? And they feed off of each other, like you with the Rocky Mountains. And um, a little bit makes you want more, and you go back. And I bet you'll go back many times in life, probably.
yeah. That's my hope at least. And well, you mentioned the Good Life Abroad. That's your company. What prompted you to start this company?
Yeah, so I've been in the travel industry for 30 years. And I started with student travel, eventually went to family travel. And with family travel, what we started seeing was more intergenerational travel, the grandparents taking the kids and the grandkids on a trip. Of course, the grandparents are often paying for this, and um, and I would go on many of these tours, and the grandparents would say to me, "Yeah, this is great. We love them. It's a great experience to take our kid to show them the world, or our grandchildren to show them the real world. But for us, Andrew, we're retired. Isn't there something for retirees who have more time where we could just kind of go at our own pace and we don't have to, this whole like getting on the bus and every day like, doing some, many things in a day and packing it into, seeing a country or a region in 10 days. I said, we, we just want to slow down. And I thought that's a great idea. If you have the time, just let it be a little bit more independent, but at the same time provide sort of the safety net and the support of a local friend, and then having this community where you could make friends. And so we thought, let's try this, and it became an offshoot of my larger company, and that's the origin of the Good Life Abroad. And people
Yeah,
seem to love it.
Yeah, I was listening to another podcast. I think you said a decent amount of your business is repeat customers, and your marketing budget you're dropping dramatically because the word of mouth referrals was going up. So clearly, people are liking the good life abroad. You're
Yeah,
actually delivering a good life.
exactly. Well, I think it's one of these things people have had in the back of their minds while they're working.
Hmm.
Oh, I would love to live abroad. And I think after the pandemic, where, older people saw these younger people, in many cases, like at the work in work, right? Like everyone was doing Zoom meetings, and you'd see these 20-year-old employees or 30-year-old employees to your company, and they're dialing in from exotic places around the world, and you're thinking, wait, why can't I do that? And
Hmm.
it's like, well, as you get older, you can't. You have kids, you have other commitments in your community, but you think, well, maybe when I retire, I could be like that 25-year-old who's dialing in
Hmm.
from exotic places,
Yeah.
and now it's a very normal thing for people to do to live abroad.
Yeah, you're maybe at the point where you've got the ability to desire, not necessarily going to youth hostels, right? You're trying to
Yeah,
have a little bit
more
more.
like a luxury apartment at this
There you
age.
go. Yeah, a little more comfort with it. I'm curious because I've done Airbnb in the world of the U.S., but how prevalent are places like Airbnb abroad, outside of the U.S., and maybe how does what you do compare to an Airbnb or getting a hotel for a week?
Yeah. I mean, Airbnb is worldwide and it's great. I mean, but it is what it is, right? It's just every apartment is different. It's owned by a different person, and they're kind of vacate it. And maybe sometimes you'll find some of their stuff in there, and it's a little weird. You definitely feel like you're in someone else's home. um, so what we do is we partner with large property management firms that more focus on housing, not for a few days or a week, but more medium term, meaning like a month to 9 months. It's specifically designed for corporate executives. And so it's pretty nice, like executives that might even move with their family to a country for a year. So it's pretty nice. I wouldn't say luxury, but it's upscale. It's very nice, modern, renovated apartments, and we take these and we use them for our travelers. So they have a really a home, a full kitchen. You can cook and entertain. So it's a little bit different in terms of the lodging. But what really makes it different from just getting an Airbnb for a month is having this local support and having this community of people around that are doing things together. And we put on some activities like cooking classes or happy hours or lunches, but then the community, you just start to make friends, and suddenly you find yourself doing all sorts of things with all these interesting people.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, but or odd to say. Like, what do you mean making new friends here? But I've
Yeah,
seen this before, just even on cruises,
yeah,
where that's just, I've heard this stories like this multiple times. Where I was on a cruise, we had a dinner, we just hit it off with this other couple, so then we planned to go to the next dinner together, and then we exchange emails, and then we planned to go on another cruise together. 6 months later, right? Because
yeah.
they so it's
And then those two couples meet someone on the next cruise,
yes,
and then
right.
suddenly this whole little community forms.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I think it's a beautiful thing because you're meeting people who share one of your values, which is the love of travel, right? And you think about, I mean, you've probably talked about this before in retirement, the idea of identity comes up, right? In my professional life, for example, I'm an accountant. I'm the dad at the school with my kids go to, and these are like identifiers. But when you go into retirement, suddenly I'm not the accountant. I may have been an accountant, but I'm not working as such. And but kids, they've long left home, and it's not about being the dad at the school. Maybe you still have your community around your faith group or your neighborhood, which is awesome. But now you go on. If you really love travel and you go and you meet these people who deeply love travel, and so much so they want to go for a month, right? Cultural immersion. These are culture lovers. And you start connecting, and it's like we now have a shared value. And this is a new identifier I have, culture lover or traveler or art buff, whatever your identifier is. And now you've met a new tribe. And now you're finding your tribe bit by bit. You just don't live near each other, but now you can do these trips together. And I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I think just even a change of location helps you maybe accept or change or identify somewhere new. That might be a good thing to plan out of. And some people do this. Say, I'm retiring. I'm getting out of town, and
Yeah,
maybe you
yeah,
get out of town in a way that you go do the things that you planned on doing that you wanted to do for years, but now you have the actual ability to do that. I like this idea of it's almost an identity helper, because that is a common theme of I retired and like who am I
yeah,
now? And if your answer becomes I'm a a cultural I'm learning about cultures, I'm a traveler, right, as opposed
yeah,
to I was this, you're focusing more on the who you are part of it. I think that's great.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Good. Well, we in general, I think we've talked about retirement here, one because it's a retirement focused podcast, but also as you mentioned, you generally are able to find the time once you hit retirement. What would you say is maybe the kind of the typical person that's doing the good life abroad, and maybe who's not yet typical, or maybe doesn't fit into a little bit of a box around who you generally see as someone using the good life abroad, that you would say, okay, like, yeah, just because I didn't say that you fit the averages of what we see
Hmm.
sometimes, let's encourage you. Who do you think would, yeah, we should encourage to try something out like this?
Yeah. So I think we should encourage. There's a couple of audiences. One, um, I'll just say solo female travelers, and the reason is they typically what we find a bit of, and I think there's a lot more out there, are people who maybe got divorced later in life, or maybe are widows, and it could be male or female, but we find it's primarily female. And in your married years, you travel together. You share this love of travel. You travel together. And what happens over years of marriage is you have roles, right? One person is like the planner, and the other person's like you know, the navigator when you're driving around, right? There's like roles that form. And then, for whatever reason and life circumstances, you find yourself hitting retirement, but now you're not married. You're alone and you love travel, and but you're like, how do I do it without my partner there? And so I think what we provide, this community, becomes extremely valuable to solo travelers. Suddenly you meet other solo travelers, and because it's not just couples, that's one of the misnomers, and I want to try to, you know, clarify that it's just not for couples. And then you connect, and suddenly you've got travel buddies, and you can still be independent. You have your own apartment, but you can also connect with these other couples or solo travelers and do stuff, and find your travel buddy, just even if for a month, or you might become new friends and do it again and again. So I think there's solo travelers, and I think the other community that I really want to encourage. Um, I recently took a class at the local university in my town, just because I'm a curious person, and I met all these other retired, and they specifically had a program for older people to come take classes, and there were all these lifelong learners. And if you consider yourself a lifelong learner, someone who's just an intellectually curious person, I want to encourage those types of people to go abroad for an extended period of time. And I think lifelong learners typically will be very intentional with their travel because they like learning about things. So, I wanted to just take a language class. And I use travel to accelerate my language learning. But, whether it's taking a cooking class or a history class or an art class, I think lifelong learners should combine that with travel.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few people in those categories that say, yeah, I like this idea. I should look into the idea of not just a vacation, but it's more of it's a I don't know, a lifestyle. It's where you're living for a month or so. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it's in a way, it could almost be like a study abroad program from college.
there you
If
go.
you didn't go abroad in college, well, it's never too late. You could do it as an adult, and it doesn't have to be boring study. It can be fun study. It could be
Yeah.
eating lots of good food and learning about food or wine.
Yep.
And so I encourage people. It's never too late to keep that brain working and learning about new things and experiencing new cultures.
Yeah. All right. So living abroad is kind of like a study abroad for retirees. We got that kind of
I like
concept,
that.
which makes me think. Okay, you started a company a few years back here. It's going well. You're expanding. More and more people are making use of the good life abroad. But I'm curious for you. How do you envision spending your retirement? If you were retired and not running a company, how would that look for you?
Well, I'll be completely honest. Um, the genesis of the Good Life Abroad was me thinking about what do I want to do in my retirement.
Hmm.
And I don't know, maybe like some of your listeners, I like watching that show, House Hunters International, right?
Yep.
And you see they're fixing up a house in some beautiful place, and you fantasize it about it a little bit. But I thought, actually, I don't want to own properties around the world. That just sounds like work and paperwork and taxes and just things. I just want to go. I want to have a place where I can go to Spain for a month or two, and then I'd like to go to France and maybe go to Asia and South America. And but I love my hometown. I love living in San Diego, California. But so I want to be here for like half the year. And so I thought, how do I do that without owning properties? And I don't want a timeshare. I just want to go but I want to know that there'll be things to do and people to connect with. I like meeting people. So that was sort of part of the inspiration for the Good Life Abroad as well. Is I would do this. And I thought if I would do it, other people would do it.
Yeah.
So I see myself becoming a customer,
Sure.
and I would like to retire at some point, and hopefully not too distant future.
Yeah.
And I would like to do a couple months in Europe and then back in San Diego, and often be home for the holidays with my kids. So hopefully my kids will come back for the holidays to spend with. That's what I would do. And of course, in the meantime, I'd continue studying and taking classes at the university. I think that's so much fun, and I'm getting into pickleball, like many of your
Yep.
listeners, I'm sure. And so hopefully get really good at pickleball too.
Yeah. I like it. Um, you said, how do I, live abroad without owning things? With that, some of that sparked my mind of the other uh, piece of it too. It's not just buying a house, or how do I go about signing an apartment lease, things like that. But it seems like the biggest worry retirees have is health insurance, especially if they retire below
Yeah.
65. So I'm curious, how does health insurance work? Imagine I moved to Europe for a full year.
Mhm.
How would health insurance work that way? And then how would health insurance work when you're doing this kind of extended travel, this 1 month, 2 month type of travel?
Yeah. So there's very different for both of those scenarios. Okay, I'll give you the easy answer for the Good Life Abroad is we buy travel medical insurance for all the people, and we have a network of English speaking medical professionals in all these cities. So if something happens, you're covered. No, easy peasy, no problem. Now, to stay for more than a few months, now you're getting to visa regulations. In Europe, in the EU, most of the countries are part of what's called the Schengen area, Schengen Zone. And Americans can only stay there for up to 90 days during any 180-day period. Okay. If you're going to stay beyond that, you need to have a visa and you need to go through some paperwork. Once you do that, often you will have the ability to buy in some local private health insurance, but it is getting a little more complex. There are also plans in the United States where you can buy international travel medical insurance for an extended period of times. Some of the big providers like Allianz and whatnot, they have this as well. But if you're going to actually move abroad for, I would say, more than a year, by starting the visa process, then you can buy local private insurances. And I think that's ultimately the best route to go on if you're going to stay for, a long term, maybe even moving abroad permanently.
Yep. I see why you offer 1, 2, and 3 month stays, because then you can do the keep you under the 90 days and not have
Keep
to
you
worry
under the
about that.
90 days.
Yep.
Exactly. That's exactly why it is.
Yeah, I like it. Good. Well, you certainly shared a lot about travel in general, travel abroad. I think it's been really helpful. I do have one more question for you, but before that, tell us what's the best way for people to reach out to you.
Sure. Our website's definitely the best way, www.thegoodlifeabroad.com. And you can shoot us an email, info@thegoodlifeabroad.com. And just say that you heard us on your podcast, and we'll know who you are, and we're happy to help you out.
Yeah, you got it. I've got, I'll put links to all that in the show notes. And of course, if you'd like to learn how to create your retirement master plan so that you can afford to and plan to have some time to live a good life abroad, you can head over to 5stepretirementplan.com. All right, Andrew, final question for you. Tell us something about yourself that few people know about. And remember, this podcast is rated clean.
um, Okay. Well, after I tell you, it won't be just a few people who'll know because have
That's
many,
right.
many
Yes,
listeners. So,
you got it.
uh, one of my favorite things to do while I travel is magic. So I'm a bit of an amateur magician, and I find that when I travel, if I have some sort of interaction with a person, I might do a few magic tricks, and it tends to be a really great way to break the ice and spark a conversation.
Yep. Oh, it's fun. Yeah, I suppose it's how many different currencies of coins have you pulled out of somebody's ear? I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, appreciate you coming on the show, sharing with us about the good life abroad, and I'm glad to hear about this. I'm counting down the days till I hit 55 because I think you have to be 55 plus.
Absolutely.
Yep.
55
All
plus.
right. Good. I got it. I'll circle it on my calendar so that we can
I
make use
love
of that.
it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Looking forward to having you, Jeremy.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for coming on the show, and thank you for listening to the Retire Today podcast. We believe if you know more about your money, you will feel better about your money and you will make better money decisions. Hi, I'm Jeremy Keil. If you'd like to learn how my team can help you get more income, pay less in taxes, and avoid big retirement mistakes, head on over to keilfp.com. That's KEILFP.com.